Hey everyone, welcome to Football is Life. Here we go, boys. We're back, and Waleed was not on holiday, so we're back at a regular, an acceptable cadence. So Pat and I aren't going bananas crazy. But yeah, here we are. So we've even decided to do one on like an international break week. We are kind of going, what is there to talk about? What is there to talk about? So this could be a really short episode. Who knows? Let's see what happens. But yeah, so I think where to start, boys. Well, international break, as we know, it's a little bit of a for fantasy football managers. It's all about who's going to get injured. Don't make any changes until you see what happens there. And we'll see what happens. As club, for supporting your club, you're the same thing, right? Just don't come back injured. That's what everyone's thinking, right? Going into the stretch, these key games for all of our teams. We've got some skin in the game, but on our teams, I think it is important to find out because. Waleed, I mean, with Pat, I feel your story is pretty genuine. Waleed, I don't know, it doesn't feel to me. I think there's definitely some analysis to be done on how you became a fan of Manchester City. So yeah, let's start with you, Waleed, because we want to understand each other's stories. How did you how did you get into football? How did you end up being a City fan? I want to hear that story because I don't know, something doesn't quite ring true with me, Pat. I don't know what you think, but yeah. Something smells off. So Waleed, go on, take it away.
So technically, my local team, based on the length of time that I've grown up near it, should be Blackpool in theory. And if I was to go down the traditional route of inheriting a team from my parents of sorts, it should be Manchester United. So my dad is a big United fan. Wow. He started watching football a while ago, and he's been a big United fan. And I hated Fergie while I was growing up. I absolutely loathed him. I loathed the arrogance of the United team, the whole class of 92 or whatever business it was. I hated that with a passion. And the fact that there was no competition pretty much. It was just United. Sometimes Liverpool would be there, sometimes Arsenal would be there. I just hated that. I wanted sort of a more underdog vibe. And so my favorite color is the color blue. So I thought the only natural thing for me to do was to become a City supporter in the lofty times of 2005. So 3 years before the money.
Yeah, listen, this sounds like insider trading to me, Pat. I don't know about you. This sounds like insider. He knew what was coming, right? You're somehow connected to people at that club. You knew it was coming, and you thought, right, I'll get in a few years before, so I look like a fat. Okay, I got it now. So wow.
Waleed, if you like an underdog, why don't you just go for Everton now? Why not switch sides? No.
Yeah. Now. I mean, if I want to, I'm not going to flip allegiance that quickly just yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. The oil will run out, and I'll become a Chelsea fan. But I will. I don't know. There's something about City. Just the fact that they were just so unbelievably okay. They were just not a great team. The fact that Elano's free kick against Newcastle United was probably the greatest memory that I had between 2005 and 2009 is probably the highlight, and that says something. I just really didn't like United. Everyone was a United fan around me, and I just couldn't fathom why. Why not go for some variety? It's like, for example, Pat, you've gone for Spurs, and that's nice. You've gone for an underdog in the league. That was the vibe that I was hitting at around 2004, 2005.
Wow, yeah, just what every football fan wants, a team that don't win anything. Yeah, there we go. But look what's happened now. So Pat, I mean, I guess you've kind of touched on this, right? Where it's like a friend. So, I guess the question for you is how'd you get into soccer? You're American. You should like American football, right? How did you get into soccer? How'd you get into real football? What happened?
First off, the sports that I'm used to are all happening at 3 a.m. while I'm here, so I can't I had some choices, right? I could really become a huge follower of darts. 180. No, that's not enough for me. I need a little more excitement than that, maybe. Or maybe cricket or whatever other sports are going on. The one that made the most sense to me was football. And it's a little bit close to hockey, which I love. And so I feel like some of the game flow of the game and the way it all works and everything has more similarity to hockey than American football for me. And there was that. And then also, everyone that I worked with, I came over and I'm working with a bunch of new friends, and everyone I worked with was a fan of some sort. One person in particular who was, kind of very instrumental in me picking the team that I chose. She told me right away, for kind of when I first got here. She was basically my first close friend in the company and in London. And she said, well, you have to become a follower of Premier League. You have to pick a team. You can pick anyone you want, but it just can't be Arsenal, and it must be Spurs. And so like that was the starting point for me getting to know them. But I actually said I need to do some research first, like before, because I know how I am. I'm going to pick someone. I'm going to be relatively loyal to that team. I need to do some research. And at the time when I came over, it was October of 20, and at that moment, Spurs happened to be atop the table. There happened to be, a lot of counterattacking going on, and I saw a couple of games where they were like they scored 3 times and just on these brilliant counterattacks. A lot of fun to watch. Son and Kane hooking up in these games. And then I watched a documentary. I watched a documentary with Tom Hardy doing the narration, who I love. I'm a big fan of Bane. I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy. So all of that together was enough for me to say, all right, there's my team. And it was a little bit also, they weren't the favorite. They weren't, even though they were on top of the league. I looked back at their history and I saw, okay, this team hasn't won basically since I've been alive, really. So like, why not choose somebody who I'm going to have to invest a little bit of time and effort before they finally get a chance to get to the top. So that's pretty much the story.
Wow. There you go. That's way more credible than the Leeds. I still have some questions.
I mean, Ross, was it nice coming into football in 2015 when Klopp came to Liverpool, or like?
Mate, I've been a fan so my Liverpool story is, so I'm originally Partick Thistle are my team, right? The mighty Jags. There's only one team in Glasgow. I am a Celtic sympathizer because my sister, when we were younger, when Rangers went on their like 9 in a row run, when Alan McCoy was playing and Gaza, just went in this brilliant team. She supported Rangers for no reason, and it just infuriated me. I was like, why do you support Rangers? Like, our family team is Partick Thistle. Like, yeah, they're not, we don't win lots of things, but I just couldn't. So I just really had this thing because of my sister. So that's kind of just stuck in my head a little bit. But I'm a Thistle fan. I support Ross County because I grew up, like moved to the Highlands of Scotland. They were my local team. I went to see them every week. So they're my core teams. But Liverpool, in between that, we moved about a bit. So I was born in Glasgow, where Partick Thistle are from. We moved down to Wigan, right? So really, in that area near Liverpool, right? So Wigan, the Pie Eaters, as they're called down in Wigan. One of my best mates in the world, Pete Jones, is lived in Wigan, and he was him and I were best mates, and our mothers were really good friends. And he's just a mad Liverpool fan. So I didn't really have like an English team, if that makes sense, because I was young. I was in primary school. And he was his dad was a season ticket holder, and he was just the maddest Liverpool fan. John Barnes era, this is showing my age. And I was just like, that was it. From there on, I was like, because of that association, I was just like, that was the team in the Premier League. I was like, that's my team. I did, to be fair, I remember when Paolo Di Canio went to West Ham, I always had a soft spot for West Ham because they used to be this like attacking football crazy team. Like they were, and Upton Park, for those that remember, was really tight. The atmosphere, I don't know. I've always had a little bit of, a like for West Ham, but that's how I started supporting Liverpool. It's just like down there at the time, Wigan were a non-league team. It was all rugby league, which I wasn't really into. And then just because he was such a big Liverpool fan and we played football every day together, it just became a thing. And, he's taking me to Anfield and stuff. And there we go. Here we are years later. So that I've been through, like, if I got a heads up about this, it would be like 15 years ahead, if not more. I've been through the mediocrity that hopefully Man United are feeling right now. I'm hoping this is the phase they're entering into, this long period of achieving not much. So yeah, that's how. And also, like, I feel like now growing up, and obviously Glasgow, where I live, Liverpool, like very similar cities culturally. The people get on. I love the city of Liverpool. I love the people there. And then we're doing great just now, it's a good time to be alive, but we know how quickly that can change in football. So that's that's my story. That's how I ended up being a Red.
It's so tough. Go ahead, Willie.
No, Pat.
I'm just going to say it's so tough being new to the area, and from as much or as little as I paid attention to things, even the amount of time that I paid a little bit of attention when I was in the US. Liverpool's been terrific for that whole time, like 3 years. And City has been as well. I look backwards a little bit and it looks like those teams have been really good. And as far as I can tell, they've both been amazing for forever, and they're going to be amazing for forever. But maybe that's not the case.
It's not. No, no. I mean, it's the same. Man City were. They say they Man City were. I mean, yeah, really not good at times. I mean, Liverpool have always been like, we've won some domestic cups, and we've got this kind of love affair with the European Cup where we win it when we probably shouldn't have won it. We came from behind against AC Milan in the final, one of the best games I've ever seen. It's but yeah, I mean, by the standards, it's the same as Man United now. That historically, it's a winning club, and when you're not challenging, that's the thing. Liverpool for years didn't even mount a challenge for the Premier League, like not even a challenge. Like you said, whether it was United or Arsenal, the Invincibles, we weren't even in the picture, right? As in, like, it wasn't like we were kind of, oh, could we, couldn't we? We were never in the. It was always just about, can we try and get into the Champions League? We can try and win that. So yeah, just crazy stuff. But yeah, I mean, you're right. In context of other clubs, it's a champagne problem where. That's the thing. You go through these periods where, we went through. I mean, Liverpool's managers for a while, they were going through managers like nobody's business, right? It's like, and that's not conducive to, to things without a backing of a ton of money like Chelsea did. Doesn't usually yield good results. And then we finally found Jurgen. Thank God. Thank God. So here we are. There we go. What cool stories. And what about? So I've got a soft spot for West Ham. I kind of can't really explain it, bar that they played good. I just think they were just like, I think there's just always lots of goals in their games historically. They're a different team now under Moyes, but for those that remember, they were a really exciting team to watch, I thought. And they would also, like them in Southampton, remember, they'd be good for an upset. They'd be able to beat the big teams at, Upton Park. And I think it was driven mainly by players though, like Canio, these flair players they had. If you, like, Pat, I think I know the answer here. If you had to support another team, who would it be? I think I know. I've got a feeling. I've just got a feeling in my bones.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I like the attacking, and so I do have a soft spot for Liverpool. Also, the Hillsborough thing, I read about it, and it kind of pulled at my heart. And so, like, I want them to win for that. But it's not the only team who is kind of adept at attacking that I've enjoyed. Like, if you asked me this question a year ago, or back when I first chose Spurs, the other team that I was thinking about at that time was Leeds, because all Leeds games were like 5-3. They were super exciting. They either won or they lost, but a bunch of goals got scored. A little more like, I would say, more like hockey, I guess. And so I was thinking about them, but I decided to go with Spurs. And now they're not really scoring. So, like, I'm pretty happy that I chose the way I did. But yeah, I think I definitely have a soft spot for Liverpool. If it comes down to it, and I have to choose, who I want to root for to win the title this year in Premier League, I'd rather it was Liverpool for sure.
Of course you would, because you love Virgil. You love Big Virg. I know you do.
I do.
Big Virg. He's a Rolls Royce. He is. Waleed, I've got a feeling that your answer might not be this. So, I mean, who's your other team? I don't know. I've got a feeling.
I don't know. I feel like we should almost have a flashcard, because I could immediately, like, if I had bought a house, I could have put my money on it that you were going to say West Ham, and I had a feeling that you were going to say Liverpool/Leeds. So my team,
Southampton?
No. Can you imagine? I give that much stick to one team, which I now actually quite admire, and then Leeds. Leeds, it has to be Leeds. So I watched the documentary on Amazon Prime. I've got a couple of good friends who are huge Leeds fans, and I basically sat down with them and heard all about it and all the pain. I really like the fact that they've also, they've basically been a poached club as well. Like some other clubs, like your Southamptons or West Hams and everything like that. They've been a club which other people come and scoop stuff. I mean, I just literally read right now that Rafinha is probably off to Barcelona. Like, it's a club that will never, they have a lot of ambition. They have a lot of great fans and they play really, really good football, but they're just never going to be able to keep the players, which makes me feel a bit sad. But I really like the way they played in the Bielsa. And I think maybe I am just supporting Leeds during the Bielsa era, which might be a bit haphazard. It's like coming to support United at the tail end of Fergie's time. But I don't know. I feel like if Jesse Marsh can pull something off, there's a lot to say about Leeds. There's a lot to like about them.
Listen, if Leeds owners were as ambitious and they put their money where their mouth is, like, the club has got.
I'm having some computer.
Oh, that's hilarious. He's talking to himself. You love that. He's I think I'm having some computer issues. There he is. You're back, I think. But Leeds, like, if their ownership match that, they talk about being ambitious, but that club, super well supported. Like they've got everything that you would say, you know, like potentially bigger than a lot of these other clubs that people say are potentially big clubs. They've got massive potential, but it's about investment. I think the Bielsa thing, it's you know, like, well, I mean, it's, yeah, I understand why that happened, but you're like, yeah, I don't know, like you don't want to get into this managerial merry-go-round. That doesn't really help. I think if they need to stay up this year, obviously, but yeah, like you say, I think that they're, you know, like there's talk of I think Rafinha looks like he's going to go. But they've, you know, they've done well to, you know, they've got a lot of young players. I think they will, it is about keeping those players, but you know, it's what kind of club are they going to be? If they're going to, it's a bit like the West Ham debate just now. It's like, you know, there's a lot of teams like Leicester, you can throw Villa, Everton in there. It's like, are you going to spend enough to be able to keep Declan Rice to, you know, like, are you going to be able to match these people's ambitions? Or do you accept you're just in that tier below where you're gonna like build up the Declan Rices, or you're gonna build up the Jack Grealishes, and you're gonna sell them for premium money to the big teams, and you're gonna reinvest that in your team, and then there'll be cycles where the reinvestment works really well, and maybe you have a year where you challenge for top four, and there'll be cycles where maybe it doesn't work out. You know, it's down to the ambition of the owners, because I think it just comes down to money. But yeah, you're right. I mean, fan base, everything like that they've got massive potential. And I remember growing up, they were challenging and winning things. You know, it was and they were good to watch. But yeah, well, that's interesting, very interesting. Okay, well, thanks for sharing, boys. Really
before you move on, Ross, I want to just say,
well,
I sympathize with the computer issues that you're having at the moment, and I think like you may notice on my end the glitches that I'm having, where it appears that there's a woman walking back and forth with laundry behind me, or sometimes it appears that I'm lifting a beer and having really, those are just computer glitches, not really happening. Don't worry.
Love that. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I did notice. Yeah, I thought, yeah, who's that stranger roaming about? Is he getting burgled? I'm not sure. But yeah, thanks for sharing. So I thought we'd talk about, so there's some other topical things, couple of things, you know, I know we're in an international break, but we can make the most of it because there's always stuff to talk about in football. There's always things to talk about. So the first one I thought we'd talk about is Chelsea's impending new ownership. So it looks like, as we talked about in the last one, common sense has prevailed. Chelsea are going to be allowed to be bought. I think that they are getting away tickets for the cup, I think, and they're allowed to sell them, and the proceeds are going to the cause in Ukraine. So there seems to be reasonable compromises made, so the fans are at least a little bit, you know, protected from the impact of something that's kind of out of their control. But there's going to be these impending new owners. I think every one of them is like American backed somehow, is what I read. I don't know if that's true, but there's So anyway, lots of wealthy people wanting to buy Chelsea. Unclear what that will mean for, you know, the Chelsea we've known under Abramovich, where it's been he's playing fantasy football every week with a real team, which is pretty awesome, right? You know, if you can do that, we don't know. It could be a similar model, somebody who's crazy fan with stupid money, or it could be more of a model that maybe Man City, that's, you know, they try and hide the money they spend under other guises, right? Basically, they're just smarter about it, or I guess Abramovich is more just, I don't care, I'm just spending money. But I think it begs this big question, which is, you know, it's really around, and Pat, this is something that I'll bring you in this. You know, if you think about and we talked about this before sometimes, with the difference between like American sports and the sport over here, right? So, you know, if you take let's take Man City as a good example, or Newcastle is probably a better example, a team that, you know, since I can't even remember, 20 odd years, maybe longer ago, since they were competitive, change of new owners, wealthy people, all of a sudden you could go to being like a big team, right? And people argue with like, oh, they don't have the history of Man United, and there's all these arguments. But I think that what it highlights is that there's this ever increasing gap, right? If you look at these teams we talked about, like Leeds and Aston Villa and Wolves and West Ham, Leicester trying to get into the top four and compete and play in the elite competitions. You know, this idea of like these rich owners coming in, it almost, you know, does that make it fairer in more respects? If you think about American sports, where the idea is there's franchise ownership, there's draft picks. So the idea is, the philosophy is, I mean, it doesn't always work, but is that the weaker teams get the better players that are coming through, which means that everyone's got a kind of fairish, you know, they've got the salary caps, which again would go to that being competitive. Whereas, you know, does this make it fairish? Because you could say anyone could be bought by wealthy owners, and if you all get bought, then it's like you're all competitive. But or does it just exaggerate that gap between the big teams with that amount of money to your kind of leads are going, well, we can't possibly keep Rafinha. Or and you look down to the bottom of the table, like the gap between Burnley and one of those teams is huge. So I just wonder what as an American sports fan, what you think about the model over here.
Yeah, I've been watching this a lot and thinking about it because having been a big sports fan, basically every sport in the US, I think in most cases, one of the things that's consistent about American sports is that the commissioners of the sports are doing everything possible to try and make it as close as possible to like create parity inside their leagues. And the reason they do it is because they're trying to make sure that the fans in the different local markets are all engaged with things for as long as possible. They're trying to make sure that teams have a chance to make the playoffs, kind of occasionally, so you don't lose interest in what's going on. And I think there's some other pretty big differences as far as like you don't have the whole promotion relegation thing in a bunch of different divisions. It doesn't work exactly that way, but a lot of what they do, draft picks and salary caps, and the tougher teams play a tougher schedule. If you finish first in your division in sports, generally your schedule, not in all sports, but in the NFL, for instance, your schedule looks different, looks easier than a team that finished fifth in the division last year. And the reason for that is because they're trying to help make sure that they level the playing field as much as possible. The kind of saying is the NFL would love it if every team goes, 9-8 or 8-9. That's perfect for them because everybody has a chance to be in it. Now, you still have some teams that are run better than others. You still have teams like the New England Patriots who have a Tom Brady for a long time, and they just end up being like ridiculously good because they have a player at a key position who is really terrific. But the league is actively doing things to try and make it more even. And I think like I'm only a couple years in watching, and as I said, it looks to me from all I can see is like Liverpool and City are up there, have been up there, and it looks to me like City's been there for a while. It looks to me like Liverpool's going to be there every year. Might well be that those cycles are just a little bit longer than they are in other sports in the US, but there are still cycles. But it also feels like it's very difficult to compete well when the pockets of the ownership of the other team are a lot deeper and they can spend a lot more money. It's hard. How do you keep a Rafinha on your team? How do you compete with whoever the new hotness is in Europe that Premier Leagues or teams are trying to get? Like I watched it a few times at the transfer window, like right at the end, where Spurs said, "I want this person, I want that person." No, we'll take Diaz. Like someone comes in and swoops in and takes a person, and it's basically because they can offer a more attractive team to play for based on kind of what leagues they're playing in, but also they can pay more. And so I don't know. Like I think it's an interesting thing for me. I'm going to have to take a little bit more time before I have a really strong opinion on which way is better, but it's certainly very different.
Well, yeah. What's your thought on this? I mean, it's another. So in Chelsea, we're already one of these teams, but Newcastle, there's other teams that I think there's rumors of like, Leicester have a kind of, they're not quite, maybe quite as well, don't spend it the same way, but they've tried to break in there. Is this the way it's going? Do you think that there's like Premier League teams for sale because like fans feel like you're selling the heart and soul of the club to try and compete and be successful?
I mean, it's so tricky. I feel like there's no real sort of there's no silver bullet, right? There's no silver bullet. I mean, the NFL at least has the benefit of the fact that there's a set number of teams. There's also, there's no promotion relegation, but also what I think is quite important is that they don't have other countries and other leagues of the same sport compete against. Because it's not just the fact that the teams within the Premier League and then the Championship and everyone else are competing within those teams. The Premier League is also competing with every other league in the world, and they have to. Every league that isn't the Premier League potentially is going to be called a quote unquote farmers league, right? Because the quality of the football isn't going to be as good because maybe one or two teams are going to be brilliant. That by no means means that the Premier League is a farmers league because it's just Chelsea and Liverpool. City and Liverpool there competing. Chelsea as well. I don't really know what the answer is here because the thing is that it's good that to an extent. It's good that you have owners coming in and buying stuff and giving some clubs like that necessary injection. Like you look at, for example, Leicester with the Thai owner, he's a really good guy, done a lot of work there, which has been really good. Fulham have now sort of become a bit more business savvy, which is what they really needed, going from Mohammed Al Fayed and his Michael Jackson statue outside of Craven Cottage. But then you also get abuses of power. Like you look at Everton, that's absolutely nosediving. United even, right? But then you look at the model in Germany of, oh, fans own 50 plus 1% or something like that. But then that means that if there's a north-south divide, or if there's like a difference in wealth between where you live, that's going to skew the league incredibly. Like I cannot tell you the answer, but what I can say is that there needs to be some sort of across the board, some type of cap on either like salaries or purchases in general. Like you'd have thought the financial fair play would do that, but I feel like it just got crowbarred in, like when your Abramovich's and your Sheikh Mansours and everything like that came into it, and then people just got better lawyers. So it's almost as if financial fair play needs to be, one, taken a look at again properly, and two, like tightened up a bit more. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not here as a City fan saying, oh, I love that we can spend loads of money. I would like to have the Liverpool like running of the club.
Okay. It's interesting. I think your point, Pat, it's interesting because if I look at the Premier League this year, right, you've got an epic battle for the title, right? You've got this other great battle. You've got kind of other battles. You've got the battle for the top four, which maybe covers. I mean, maybe it's realistically 3 or 4 teams, but you could argue it's 5 to 6 teams that maybe could potentially get there. And then you got this battle for relegation, right? And I think about that. I think it's a really, really exciting league. I think, there's other years you look at it and go like Man City ran away with it last year. The top 4 was everyone kind of knew, so it can be. If I look at American sports and say, well, like you say, the Patriots, when everyone hates them because they were the Man United of when Man United were Man United, and everyone hates them because they were so successful. So it doesn't guarantee the fact. I think it's like you say. I think the difference is that the people that run it are actively trying to make it, how can we create more parity? I think that's the thing that's missing from football, that I would say, I don't think drafts work. I think salary caps are, unless, because again, you're always going to get another country that pays more, right? That's even happened with like people going to China, like Oscar, and he said that he's a Chelsea player, and he was like, look, essentially, like, I'm tripling my earnings, and like, I'm thinking about my family, my future. And so it was like, the be all and end all to him wasn't about winning the Champions League, the Premier League when it came to money. And it's like, you see that with a lot of, American athletes where you're going, why are you going from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins, mate? Like, well, it's because they're paying me ridiculous money. Okay, well, cool. If that's what, Tom Brady notoriously took a lower pay to have better teammates, right? So he could win more. So I think it's a complex thing, but I do think the only thing that I think is a problem is, how do the people that run, and I think you look at the talk of the European Super League, it's about that'll just make the richer clubs richer, the richest clubs richer, and establishes more of this elite. And as much as you want to see those elite battles, it's like the story of Leicester, like that. We all know that was like, we're lucky to have seen that, because when will that happen again? It's hard to, you say, Pat, like trying, like who could be the next Leicester? It's hard to see, right? With just the amount of spending that these elite clubs have. It's just so unlikely that will happen again anytime soon, and it becomes a rarity. Whereas you'd like to see the people that run the game looking at, how do we distribute wealth more evenly in a way that creates a better product, right? So as you say, not just for the top, these big clubs, but it's like you want, more competitive games across the board, because then you're engaged. You're not going, oh, it's Norwich at home, easy. You want that. A level of competitiveness, which I think there is. So I don't think there's a massive problem in that. It's more what do the league try and do to address the gap, because there is a massive gap. And I think allowing these super rich people to come in and throw money at teams, it almost is going to it alienates so many of these other teams where that's just not going to be an option, like like Norwich, for example, or Burnley.
But just to play devil's advocate,
yes.
I agree that it isn't great at the top end of the table. I mean, it becomes a bit more kind when it comes to your championship and below. But doesn't the concept of a ridiculous owner with heaps of funds to help try and rejuvenate a club that is struggling or not even existent really, to get them to some sort of fighting competitive form and give something more back to the area, doesn't that excite certain fans? Like, you look at Wrexham. Yeah. That is a key example of, like, you should also see the highlight reels of the 6-5 win that they had.
Yeah.
That is madness. But isn't that kind of exciting, in the sense that because you can have it so much on the top end, there is that you can almost support your local team. Because I feel like we feel sad for like your Norwiches, your Watfords, and whoever Burnley have, that because they're going to go down, like, or even Everton's. But I feel like the people that we should really be sad for is those local teams. I can bet that in the place that I live, there's probably 2-3 local teams like that have stadiums and everything, right? They're not going to get any money apart from now, when you have like your Ryan Reynolds and everything like that coming up and buying things. So there's always that like little glint of hope in your eye that capitalism may work.
Tale. Yeah, it's a fairy tale. I don't know. I think I take your point. It is a fairy tale, and it's like, I don't know. I think that the challenge of these owners is like that. You know, I think Abramovich was unique in the fact that it was fantasy football, right? That's not. I mean, I don't think that's the case in a lot of these other, like, certainly not for Liverpool. Certainly not for the Glazers at Man United. Certainly not for Kroenke at Arsenal. I mean, these people are in it because they're rich and they see an opportunity to make money. This is the problem. Is what it does is it my biggest issue with it is this is where you get the soaring player wages, because you got these big clubs, all this money. How do I get? I want who wants Mo Salah, right? Who's going to pay the most, right? And it drives the salaries. And this is where I do love this idea of salary capping, because it's a match. If you want to take a big hit on a player like Messi or Salah, that's fine, but you're going to have to get creative around that, because, right? So it's like, so I think that's what I like, because I think what that does is it protects, like, if you think about the cost of going to see football games, right? It's crazy. It's getting higher and higher. And the biggest reason for that is because of the, player wage demands, because of the competitiveness in the market. And I think that, they'll go the highest bidder. These teams are bidding against each other. It's all about success. I think it creates a real issue with keeping the game affordable, right? I think that's that. It's a work. It's like you're right, Pat. Like ice hockey is a blue collar sport, right? Across the pond, football is a working class sport, right? It's not. If you look at the price of Premier League now, and you look at the price of the NHL, similar problem. It's not really cost is not really a working class cost, which is really what the sport was born from. So that's and I think that's the same across there as well. So it's like, how do you address that? It's a big problem. Players are earning astronomical amounts of money. It's crazy, and people are willing to pay because everyone's willing to pay to watch it, and they have this product, and it's at some point it has to burst. I think at some point. I
agree. It goes the wrong direction, and it really prices people out of being able to take your a couple kids to the game and just go and enjoy. It's not an easy thing to do. But I also think that even though I'm finding an awful lot of joy in watching what's going on here, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the promotion relegation stuff. I'm loving the fact that you can look at people in other leagues. I think that, Waleed, your point is super well taken. You don't want to just leave yourself open to being the farm league for Real Madrid and Barca and whoever might want to come in and take your players. But you're also missing out on, like, if you look at the Bengals from this year in the NFL, you have a team that, sure, it's a 53-man roster, and you shouldn't be able to just like do it with a couple of players. And yet, like, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase basically were unstoppable. No offensive line, no running game, doesn't matter. They still got all the way to the ultimate game. And it's a neat story to be able to see things like that. So the Leicester story is one that you want to be able to see occasionally, in my mind. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that it's, if the only way to get there is to do it the way, you bring in somebody who's got a lot of money and start to buy up the Mo Salahs around the league, and that's it. I just think it's a little bit tough.
Yeah. But then the problem that we're also seeing at the moment, though, like, for example, with Barcelona, this is what's like, I wasn't a huge fan of Barcelona at the very start of my life, and I don't think that I will be at the end. But the fact that they've gone a $1.5 billion bailout, that doesn't sit well with me. That they were a club that were going to capitulate completely, and now they're a club that are vying to try and buy Haaland, and they're trying to buy Mbappe, and they're trying to get back into that mess. But the problem is that these clubs are a brand that will allow them to be able to have all of this. And like your Real Madrids, like, this is what it's one thing to have a wealthy owner, but then it's another thing to be in a position like Barcelona and Real Madrid, who are perpetually crippled financially, but still seem to manage to get away with it.
It's again ironic coming from a Man City fan, but yeah, again, things you love to hear. You know what? At least you're consistent, was it? At least you're consistent, which is great. Okay, well, listen, let's move on to the next topic. So the other topic is there was the FA Cup semi-final draw. Crystal Palace facing Chelsea. Conor Gallagher, unfortunately, will be ineligible to play against this club, which is a shame for him, I think, because he's such a great season. Great football. I think he's excellent. And then the other one is, looks like, we're thinking, could City and Liverpool meet in the Champions League final, the FA Cup final, and battle for the league? The answer is no. They're meeting in the semi-final, but the game is at Wembley Stadium, which is a significant distance from where both sets of fans typically would come from. And there's no direct trains on. So there's this, I think the FA have said they're going to put 100 buses on. There's this whole debate about moving it. What do we think? It seems bonkers, doesn't it? They're saying it's about finance, right? They're saying they're having it at Wembley, the money they make, whereas if they outsource it to another stadium, like let's say Old Trafford, they're going to lose out on the money, and they've had to lay people off during furlough and all this stuff. So it's about money. What do we think? Well, should they move it, or what do you think about the FA Cup semi-final being played at Wembley? In general, should it even be played semi-final? Why, that seems crazy to me, right? Why would you play the semi-final at the stadium? It's like that. The showpiece should be at that stadium. It kind of devalues it. But anyway, what do we think?
Wasn't that schedule? Didn't they put that on the schedule a long time ago?
Yeah.
Play on non-subject. They should just go ahead and do it. No, I mean, I get why, but like they scheduled it a long time ago. It's not. I don't think they did anything to try and punish the two of them or anything like that, or trying to punish their fans. They said the semis were going to be at Wembley. The semis are at Wembley. It's all good.
I can understand the pragmatism there, but I think the issue is that they're pretty much next door. Like, there's really not any distance between between Manchester and Liverpool. But on top of that, when you add logistics into it, and yes, they can throw 100 megabuses at the situation, but with all due respect, if there is one accident on the M25, that's an empty stadium. The only way that we could fill up that stadium that quickly is by scratching off City and putting United there, and you get the fans flooding in from London. Like, it doesn't make that much sense. It makes sense in the sense that, yeah, they've already booked it in, but I'm not here for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. A Spurs fan love it. He's like, I don't care. We're not in it. Who cares? Like,
no, I have a different take as well, which is my first live game. I've been to now like 7 Spurs games. My first live game for like a major football game was River playing Boca in Argentina for a cup final. And I watched this game in Mendoza, Argentina. Why? Because you couldn't have that game in Buenos Aires. It was like, it's too dangerous to have everybody kind of from the fans from both teams there in that stadium for a cup final. So they decided to play it somewhere away and force people to have to, kind of travel or whatever. So I saw it, I don't know how far Mendoza is from Buenos Aires, but it's probably 8 or 9 hours, by car. It's a long way. So yeah. So like, it's going to save any sort of violence, right? There won't be any violence at Wembley. It'll be fine.
I don't know about that. We'll see. It's an interesting. I actually saw River play Boca in River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires. They didn't allow any Boca fans in. It was just River fans because you couldn't do that. It was crazy. But yeah, what I would argue maybe one of the best spectacles like that rivalry is intense, absolutely intense. Boca's stadium, La Bombonera, is the best football stadium I've ever been in my life. It's the most unique stadium. If you get a chance to go, because at some point they'll modernize it a bit, but it's like, I'm not even going to explain, just go. The atmosphere, the stadium, it's stunning. Okay, and then the final one I thought we'd finish on is so there's a rumor that we heard about Marcus Rashford leaving Man United, right? I think I heard Arsenal. I've been and again, this is we all love transfer rumors, right? Yeah, Marcus Rashford potentially leaving Man United. I think he's 24 years old now, or 25, soon to be 25, I think. So again, not a young player anymore, let's be honest. He's, but yeah, clearly not happy at Man United, not really getting played. What do we think? What about his situation? Arsenal? Like, surely not. Surely that couldn't happen. What do you think, boys?
Love to see it.
You'd love to see
it. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. I'm sorry, but when United were going masses of turmoil, less so than now, he was actually doing pretty well. He was, my internet. Oh wait, no, my internet's fine.
No, we got you. We got you.
Yeah, okay.
Was he Waleed though? Like, so this is I'm not saying, you all know my opinion on Romelu Lukaku. Like, Rashford is like, and Pat, you may be a little bit oblivious to this because you've got into the sport so recently, but England have this this knack of any young player that comes through the ranks that shows that one of the big clubs that shows that has it, maybe 2 good games in a row, right? They then get tagged as being like they get this reputation, right? And for me, I look at Ryan and think, is he an elite player? I don't think he is. I don't think he is. Look, put it this way. If I said to you right now, Pat is a Spurs fan, Waleed is who is it you support again? Southampton fan. If I said you could have Rashford, right, or you could have Bukayo Saka, who would you choose?
Very different players at very different parts of their career.
Who would you choose? You choose Saka, wouldn't you? Right? If I said, I'll swap your son for Rashford. Exactly. If I said I swap you, Rashford or Sterling, there's a question for you, Waleed.
Okay, so obviously Sterling, but let's also think about it. United have not had a good manager for a while, and he's had to endure all of that. He came up through Louis van Gaal, who was anti-football if anti-football ever had a face, then went straight into Jose, then went straight into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You can't say that Marcus Rashford has had any real type of football coaching to improve his quality. If you put Rashford in front of Pep, Klopp, and now even Arteta, you will see a completely different player. Bukayo Saka is the player that he is because he has Arteta at the helm. I think if you give Rashford some kind of time with Arteta or a top manager, you'll see a different player.
But he's not going to Arsenal. I saw that in the transfer window. Arsenal doesn't sign players, so we don't have to worry about that. He's going somewhere else, but not Arsenal. Also, I've been learning about the England, kind of the national team and how that all works. I watched Mike Bassett, England manager, the other night, so I'm getting it. I got this.
I love that.
Watch Mean Machine. Watch Mean Machine if you want to get an inside scoop on how football's played.
Sounds good.
Yes, well, we'll be interested to see what happens to Marcus Rashford. You feel like this next move to me is like, is going to be critical in his career. Critical.
Ross, speaking of critical moves for wingers, if Rashford's available, would you not try and cash Salah in now and try and get him, or wait until Salah goes to Barca? Like, what's going to happen there?
See, to be honest with Salah, my opinion on the Salah situation is this: I think he needs to be transparent. I think Klopp said what he said, which is he's basically said, look, from what I understanding is, we are willing to make him the best paid player at the club, but they're not willing to pay the crazy money that other teams pay. And I think Salah's opinion, from what I've read, again, none of this is based on fact, is that he believes that there are basically kind of average players getting paid stupid money. So why shouldn't, and that's, and again, you could take that in any walk of life and any job. Yeah, you could say, hey, Pat's a chump and he's getting paid 3 times what I'm getting paid. And you could say, you could say stuff like that in any job. I think my point is, I think most Liverpool fans, you're awesome. But most Liverpool fans, Pat's laughing because he's like 3 times, 8 times more. But yeah, I think where most Liverpool fans land with this is, obviously we don't want to see him go, right? Because obviously we love him. I think it'd be a mistake for him to leave, as in, like, people have made these types of mistakes before. I think look at the age he's at. He's not got that many years left at the top. He's probably got 3-4 maximum in his proper peak of his powers. And I just don't see other than honestly Man City, where are you going that's going to give you the platform to go and do that? But I agree with the club stance in it. I think if the problem is, if you say, right, we're going to pay Salah £300,000 a week or whatever it is, right, and align him with the De Bruynes of the world, or 400, whatever it is, you're then going, if you're Sadio Mane, right, if you're Luis Diaz, if you're Diogo Jota, if you're Virgil van Dijk, Alisson Becker, right, Thiago, Hendo, Robertson, Trent, best assists in the league, right, you're going, okay, well, wait a minute, if that's the ceiling now, and I'm here, and all of us then, and this is where Barcelona have ended up where they've ended up. This is, so it's, learn from people that have made mistakes. I think it's the wrong thing to do. And I think the decision to Salah is, look, no, I think it's unlikely he's ever going to go to City. So I think the only place he's going to go abroad is probably like a PSG, maybe Juventus, Real Madrid. Even Bayern won't pay that. Bayern Munich are renowned for not doing that type of thing. So I'm kind of going, like, go to Paris and play in a substandard league if you want. You don't have the same platform there, right? And, look what's happened with Messi. So I just feel like that's the offer that's on the table to Salah. And I feel like they're holding out to get a best in final. But if it's just down to money, I'd rather him just come and say, look, I feel like I want my payday. Okay, we'd all wish him good luck. Go and take your payday. You've been amazing for us. No problem. We'll sign Rafinha, or we'll sign Saka, or we'll find somebody, right? And we've signed Diaz, we've got Jota, we've got Firmino and Mane. So
do you want Mahrez?
The future, yeah.
Do you want Mahrez?
I would take Mahrez. I would take Mahrez, like Saka. Yeah, Mahrez is awesome. But I mean, look, there's a number of players you could say, do you know what? Look, the difference with Salah though is his goals. Like, you look at his numbers, like he's one of those players that just, like, even when you're going to go, hey, he doesn't play that great, he's putting big numbers up every year. That what can happen when somebody like that leaves is all of a sudden Mane steps into the breach and starts producing bigger numbers because he's not playing kind of second fiddle. It's like, look at Benzema now that Ronaldo's gone, right? So I'm not overly worried because I think we still have enough quality there. But obviously we don't want to see him go. But I agree with the club stance. Don't break the wage structure, and that's got to be the policy. So,
yeah, 100%. I hate it when players hold clubs to ransom. That just doesn't work.
Who do you support again? Who do you support again? Wait a minute.
We let people go. They don't hold us to ransom. We very much.
De Bruyne just did a whole data analysis. The computer says I'm worth £350,000. Okay, take it. Without a second thought, like,
that's not really holding to ransom.
There is no wage structure at Man City. There is no wage structure at Man City. There is no wage.
He's the highest paid player. He's the highest paid player, and almost rightly so, right?
The
difference is that he brought data to the plate, while Salah just went, wow, I'm scoring loads.
Well, I'm sure Salah brought the data. Just go, look, that's data. Look, I score more than anyone. It's like, but no, we're not breaking the wage structure. So, yes, yeah. I think honestly, I feel like there's a Liverpool fan inside you yet, was it? I feel like you've just.
Let's not let it go by. Let's not let it kind of fade into oblivion here that Ross did that whole monologue, that whole 7 minutes, just so he could say the name of 9, Reds during the whole thing. He listed the half the team. And then I thought, like, somehow he missed Firmino. He circled back and he got him anyways. Like, it's amazing. He's got them all.
Bobby's my boy. So, well, there we go. Well, listen, boys, it's nice to chat football in the international breaks, giving us something to keep us distracted. Yeah, we're back to business at the weekend, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. That's it. I think it's at Man City's trip to Burnley where they never win. That's tough, eh? Glass half.
We're going to struggle there.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, going to struggle there. It'll be a really hard fought 7-2 victory. Yeah, probably. But yeah, let's see what happens. Big weekend ahead. I hope everyone enjoyed the chat. Always a pleasure, chaps. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. And thanks for listening.
Cheers, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.